In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie.
Would you please welcome In the Trenches, Ricky Byrd. Hello, Ricky. What's happening, man? We can both see each other. How about that?
I know. I got my purple backdrop. You have a nice back. Where are you, man? That's a nice backdrop.
I'm in a new location. I'm at the Hughes Kettner Recording Studios right now today, and that's my hummingbird in the back. And yeah, it's I got my Les Paul and my hummingbird. We're going to talk all things Gibson because I know you're a big Gibson guy out of the gate, right?
Yeah. I mean, I play whatever feels good in my hands, but I've always played Gibsons. I mean, I started out playing Gibsons for sure. I'm a Fender guy too. I love Telecasters.
Do you go with the phrase you play the right guitar for the right song, right?
Oh yeah. Like when I'm doing these records, I can in my brain kind of can tell what, like, am I going for like a scrappy sound? Am I going for like a refined sound? I got a nice 335 that I use for certain things.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm not a big Stratocaster guy. I've had some fabulous ones. Like if I'm gonna use a Fender, it's a Tele thing.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you can't fake a sound of a Tele through an AC30, right? A Tele through a Vox, or a Les Paul through a Marshall. Those are just sounds that you have to have that sound if that's what you're looking for in your head, right?
Well, I'll tell you what. As time moves on, the amplifiers get smaller for me. I mean, I use a little Fender Pro Junior. Those little 15-watt guys. Even when I play out live. I mean, I started back in the old days, even before Joan. Marshall, I think I had a Marshall 100-watt. You know what we used to do? We'd take two tubes out back then. Hence, it was a 50-watt.
And to get a little bit more overdrive.
Yeah. But I can't even. I can't stand in front of a Marshall anymore. Like my ears, there's some damage, right, over the time. I have a really nice continuous buzzing in my ears now. I mean, it's doable, but it's not pleasant.
The amps get lighter, and perhaps the guitars get lighter, I find, with the older you get, but it's still, because taking one of those 1970s Les Paul customs that weighed about 200 pounds, but sounded so killer. But
yeah, I mean, listen, man, my favorite, I don't want to dish the rest of my guitars, but my favorite taking out guitars. Well, they've been asking me questions lately, like, why aren't we out playing? I have an Epiphone Flying V. There's a lot of photos of me playing that. It weighs nothing. Dude, you plug that into my little Fender Pro Deluxe, 15 watts. Like you said, I can pick it up with one finger, right? Why do I use that? Well, I was at the Iridium when Jeff Beck played, and he just had one plugged in. I think he had three of them, but only one was actually being used. And I'm like, okay, well, that works. So I started using those guys, and then I have a Vox. I have that like beige kind of. It's an AC30, but it's also louder if you want it to be louder. No Marshalls involved. I lost my Marshall in Hurricane Sandy. The old one that I used to use.
We're going to talk about all that kind of stuff. See, folks that are in the chat, thank you very much for hanging in there. They usually have to wait a little while till we start getting into the gear talk. But right out of the gate with Ricky Byrd, we start getting into the gear. Shameless plug. This is my amp these days. This is the newest amp that just came out from Hughes Kettner, and that's why I'm in the Hughes Kettner studio. But this little thing's a 50-watt amp. Can you believe it? 2 channels, and it's not, power and everything. So you play the right guitar for the right song, and you obviously wear the right shirt for the right podcast, because there it is.
Well,
I noticed it right out of the gate.
I was reading. What was I reading last night? I was looking through. I think I was on just Facebook, and I just came across a post by Yvonne, who was Mickey Ruskin's wife. Mickey owned Max's Kansas City, the first generation of Max's. And it was just a whole article about it, about who used to hang out there and stuff. And it just brought me back. I think there's a new book out or something. But literally, Max's Kansas City was where I made my bones, my rock and roll bones, right? As a 16-year-old. Like, I mean, I was going in there. And Mickey was a trip, man. Mickey was like rough and ready, raggedy guy with like a gold tooth. and he owned the place, and he loved artists. So even before so I'm talking about 73, I was 16, like even before that, because it opened, I think, in 65. It was a place where artists could go. It was in a weird neighborhood. I mean, not now, but back then there was like no traffic, and at night it was dead, right? Lower Park Avenue.
I had no idea they even reopened it. I just figured that was like from the old school.
Well, no, it's not open now, but
Yeah.
Mickey would so he opened this place. So before my generation went there,
Right.
early
the
70s.
the early 70s, Max's Kansas City.
Yeah, it was all rock and
New
roll.
York Dolls, and Alice Cooper actually played there as well. And
Yeah, it was it was sort of a transitional phase, because before that, 65 to that time, 71 is, it was like a lot of painters, poets, artists, and he loved them. So he would have like an open tab for them. They'd come in and eat for free. They would trade their artwork, which is what wound up hanging in Max's, a lot of that stuff.
So
For
it was
meals.
basically like the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, for comedians. This was for musicians and
Yeah. And then when I started going there, well, there was a place that was before that. We used to go to a place called Nobody's, which was on Bleecker Street. And dude, you go in there, and like Jimmy Page was sitting at the bar, like, man, we used to just, and I had phony proof, because I was a little kid from Queens at that point, moved from the Bronx to Queens, right? And
Right.
and then we started hanging at Max's, and Max's had the best jukebox. I mean, I can close my eyes and see myself hanging by the jukebox, or hanging by the bar, and then the doors swing open on a hot August night, and like David and Angela Bowie walk in wearing matching white suits or something. I mean, it's like crazy. I remember talking to Rod Argent from Argent at the, I could close my eyes and see all the people that used to hang there. And funny, one of the things that happened there was, I remember seeing Mott the Hoople in 1974 at the Uris Theater, right? I think it was 3 nights, and Queen opened. It was Queen's first shows in New York.
Wow.
And I was a huge Mott the Hoople fan. And so the deal was like, you went to Max's because when there was a big band, well, here's the timeline. If there was a big band playing like at the Garden or something like that, so you'd go to Manny's Music on West 48th Street, because in those days, the crew didn't go down. I mean, they would go down, but like whoever the guitar player was would go down.
They'd actually walk down there because it was such a famous street. Yeah.
Yeah. And they would go there, and you'd see them playing. So that's how I met Leslie West down there, and Ronnie Wood. You'd see them. We were just kids, man. So we would go into the city to go to Manny's, because we knew this band was playing at the Academy of Music or the Garden, or whatever. We'd pick up a copy of Melody Maker, right? The music paper. Yeah. And then that night after the show, we knew that all of the musicians would congregate down at Max's. So like if the musicians went down there, you knew there'd be like girls down there, right? So we kids went down there. So I remember when Mott the Hoople played there, they had a famous round table in the back room where they would put the actual rock stars. And I remember standing around that table. I talk about this with my friend Phil, who, we were in the same band back then.
You guys are you talking Phil Fight?
No.
Okay.
That's way later. My friend Phil Bader.
I just thought I'd drop
we were in bands back then. In fact, we played like Flushing High School in 1973 together. Nice, and so we talk about this, like we would stand. So Ian Hunter and Mick Ralphs and like Mott the Hoople was sitting at this table, and we would stand around the table, right? Like idiots, just staring at them. And then 20 years later, I'm Ian's guitar player on a tour.
You're in his band. I was just gonna say, man, because you end up playing with the idols that you sort of hung around their table. You were just loitering, and then you got the gig. I was
loitering. I'm a loiterer. That's me.
Well, see,
I'm Ryan Roxie, and I've taken all my years of experience of playing guitar, and I want to pass the torch of rock and roll on to you. Check out the System 12 Guitar Method.